I'm from Loíza, for Loíza, and will die for Loíza.
We're pouring libations today to acknowledge that we're on sacred land. We understand that we are not the first people to occupy this place, and we have a responsibility to continue the legacy. We pour to the ancestors, the first Africans, the first ones who made civilizations on this earth. We pour to the indigenous people of Borinquen. We pour because we know that their blood flows in these veins. Ashe. We pour to those who made it possible for Loíza to stand here. We pour to those who continue to maintain these memories. They maintain these memories in the hearts of people. Ashe. For the last 15 years as an archaeologist, I've been working to uncover and recover the history of African peoples around the world. We are here in the beautiful city of Loíza, the heart and soul of the Afro-Puerto Rican community. All over this island, we will see how the culture and the traditions of this region influence the entire place. Loíza is a very important place for a number of reasons. On the one hand, we have the rich traditions of the African peoples who worked and lived on this island. On the other hand, we have the rich history of a series of formerly enslaved Africans who arrived on this island as Moruns or Cimarrones. It is through their liberation that they were able to establish this community of Loíza. The infrastructure of this region and the infrastructure of this island were built by African and indigenous hands. It's through this that we begin to understand the cultures and traditions of Puerto Rico, the cultures and traditions of Africa, and the cultures and traditions of Borinquen. I'm being led by one of the greats, Celso González, famous street artist and popular resident of Loíza. His murals and mosaics line the streets of Puerto Rico and can be found all over the world. Over 50 mosaics line the streets, sideways, and buildings of Puerto Rico. It is through his artwork that he expresses what it means to be from this community. Growing up and being raised in Loíza, he developed his art practice, picking up found objects from the streets and the beaches. And he uses that to express and to conserve the history and culture of Loíza. Today, he's going to take me around to see Loíza from his perspective, to understand what it's like to grow up as a person of African descent on this island. We're going to experience the food, the culture, and the history. More importantly, we're going to understand another perspective of the African experience. Come with me, let's go. So Celso, I've noticed that the art and the tradition is very, very instrumental in terms of the history and culture of Loíza. And I'm wondering, like, where can we go to actually get real access to that?
Where we're going right now, we're going to Samuel Lin's studio. This guy has been documenting the Afro experience in Loíza and in Puerto Rico. He's my first reference of an artist. You know, my dad always used to tell me, if you want to be an artist, be like Samuel. Doors always open here. You see people coming in and out, and don't mind. He's always working. So let's go.
Welcome.
Yeah.
All right, let's
meet
see.
him. Samuel.
Bien, Celso.
Hey, ¿cómo
Qué
estás?
bueno tenerte aquí. It's a pleasure to me, okay?
No, thank you, thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I know you're working on something right now.
It's okay. Now you're part of the...
Hey. How long have you been doing this for?
More than 40 years.
Wow.
More than 40 years, yeah.
What got you
So-
started in this process?
To me, very important, my culture, my people. That's always element of my work at the beginning, you know?
Every piece is a piece of history and a legend or something.
To me, art is part of your life, no? It's a continuity of you live in art.
I noticed specifically here in Loíza, there's the music, there's the art, and the spirituality. They all come together. How do you express that African tradition through your visual art as well?
Okay. Loíza create all their own expression. I live that. The Bomba dance, when I go into Bomba dance, to me is the biggest connection with. It's that dimension of cultural, very powerful, no?
You know, his expression is in the arts, but also the music.
This is like ancestral here, no? The drum is a connection with these African roots. It's very important, no?
sound of the city, it's the
sound of
sound of the
Loíza.
people, it's the sound of Loíza, yeah.
This is a very famous and iconic piece of Samuel. You know, I grew up with this piece in my house.
Yeah, oh my God, sí.
It seems like your art practice is changing as Loíza is changing.
Okay.
Where do you see Loíza going now, and where do you see your art practice going now?
We have, like an artist, we have this mission today. I feel more responsible, you know, to connect and continue the mission and continue. New generation have our own expression of culture, but not the connected, no?
Everywhere I go, I hear this name, Helming.
Helmen, okay.
Do you know who this is?
Sí.
Okay. Could you tell me a bit about this person?
Okay, I think Helmen is the soul of Loíza. Is the soul in Loíza in one person.
I'm standing in front of the house of the great Samuel Lind. Celso brought me here because Mr. Lind has encapsulated the soul and the spirit of this community through his visual art. In many ways, he can be seen as a visual historian. Over the last 40 years, he's been telling the story of Loíza through his paintings, his sculptures, and even his drumming and his music. His art continues to change from a reflection of the community to a bridge in the community, connecting past into present. We see Africa, we see the indigenous connection, we see Loíza.
This is one of the most iconic families in Loíza. They've been representing our culture, mainly the music and the art of the mask. And Raquel is the main figure. She's like the representation of bomba here in Loíza. ¿Cuál es la relación entre el tambor y el bailador?
Ellos me repican y yo le doy el tumbado, tú sabes. Es una conversación. Mi padre, Castor Ayala, él fue el que en la familia empezó a trabajar con las caretas de gigantes de Loíza, hechas en coco. Mi papá también fundó el ballet folclórico Hermanos Ayala. Actualmente es el grupo folclórico en el género de la bomba más antiguo de Puerto Rico. Esto es una herencia de la cual estamos muy orgullosos. Ahora en Puerto Rico todo el mundo quiere aprender a bailar, a tocar bomba. Es un despertar y eso nos garantiza que la bomba va a continuar, que la bomba va a prevalecer, que la bomba seguirá siendo esa parte del ser puertorriqueño que nos identifica.
Gracias por tu aportación.
Gracias a ti, pero antes yo quiero que tú me bailes un poquito bomba.
Being here in Loíza has taught me that the history and culture doesn't just lie in the ground. It exists amongst the people, and it lives in traditions that continue on. Looking forward, we'll explore even more about what it means to be from Loíza, about what it means to be Afro-Puerto Rican, and about what it means to be a part of the Afro-Latinidad diaspora. Dona Raquel, do you know anything about the legend of Helmén?
Él dice unas poesías tremendas. Con sus poemas y sus cosas, pues revive a uno, tú sabes. Revive a uno, pues son tan lindas y tan pueblerinas, yo te diría. Hace tiempito que no lo veo.
Daniel, I have to say, it's a true honor to meet you. If I want the history of the region, I have to read it in a book. But somehow you've managed to encapsulate that in your work. This piece right here, when I first saw it and I was introduced to it, really spoke to me. Could you talk a little bit about how you arranged this piece and what it means to you?
I call it Talegas de la Memoria. In my process, my concepts keep on evolving.
It's not finished yet because I will add the other material, which is charcoal from the mangrove. Because I like the material to be authentic.
Charcoal back then was almost like gold, like black gold.
Yes.
It was important for not just cooking yourself, but the production of sugar to rum, it's steamships. Everybody needed it. As an internationally acclaimed artist at this point, you're traveling all over the world. How do they perceive you when you show up?
Images travels a lot. Many see my images before, they see me. What you bring based in your own experience, I think that fit your image. There is no fixed meaning,
Yeah.
There is no fixed meaning. There are possibilities.
So Celso, where are we going now?
Man, I'm super excited. We're getting here to El Buren de Lula. Justin, that's the Buren.
This is the authentic Buren.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's about the iron flat and the fire. The empanada de yucas, this is super particular of this place. You wouldn't find here in any other part of Puerto Rico or even here in Loíza.
This is amazing. And this is all the traditional recipes.
Yes.
Now there's some secrets that you can't put in here.
No.
No?
secret.
Okay.
Justin, you're gonna have Loíza in one bite. It's made out of yuca
Okay.
and it's stuffed with crab, with local crab.
Oh, wow. Now, I've heard a rumor that the taste of the crab actually begins before you even cook the crab.
Aquí no se compra cualquier güey y tampoco se usa güey enlatado, es güey fresco.
Si queremos conservar una tradición genuina, tenemos que seguir usando los productos que son genuinos.
Justin, now we're gonna meet the legendary, the queen of el dulce coco.
Okay.
Lula!
Mirando a mi mamá, aprendí de ella. Era mirando la necesidad que ella tenía de hacer sus cositas para mantenernos a nosotros. Y seguí por ahí hasta el sol de hoy.
Pues Lula, gracias por recibirnos. Gracias por seguir dándome la magia esta de este dulce coco.
Thank you so much for this food from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my stomach. This has definitely made me full. But I have one more question before we go. I've heard of this person, Helmen.
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 Helmen, has preguntado por alguien espectacular en este pueblo. Es un ser maravilloso, uno de los grandes conocedores de la historia de Loíza y eso hay que agradecérselo toda la vida.
I just had an amazing introduction into the raw food of Loíza. I learned that preparation is not only in the way that they cook it on the grill, but it's also in the way in which the food is raised and cultivated. This is a tradition that has been passed down from generation to generation. You really get a taste of what Loíza is about.
Salud.
Felipe, thank you for having us here. It was a great man that visited the island, and he specifically requested to come to this place. Some people know him as Cassius Clay. Other people may know him as Muhammad Ali.
Right.
And you remember this scene, this moment?
Yes, when he was at the Caribe Hilton Hotel, he was watching local TV. He was looking through channels. He said, wait a minute, is there blacks in Puerto Rico? Take me there. They came to Loíza, and the day was a wonderful day. I think it's very memorable in our history. One of the greatest boxers, a great person, and a great black American.
Felipe, I also want you to talk to Justin a little bit about Loíza became the municipality. I know it wasn't recognized by our government, and that was a very important moment
according
for
to
Loíza.
the history records, the Spanish established a church in Loíza. And after that, Loíza lost its personality as a municipality. When Loíza was kind of left on the side. In 1963, my father, Don Ricardo Sanjurjo, and some other citizens, they established a group to try to recover our personality, or municipal.
Felipe, you know, many black communities in the United States and my own community now, we're facing this process of gentrification. I'm wondering, how have you seen Loíza change and what direction is it going now?
There's a lot of people in Puerto Rico that don't recognize that we are black descendants. What happened is that in the old days, they didn't show us how beautiful it's been black. I came to Puerto Rico with the hope that we can make changes. Now that we are bringing out our traditions, our ancestry, I'm from Loíza for Loíza, and will die for Loíza.
More to Loíza.
Thank you and your crew for coming to know our history. Very pleased. Salud.
Salud.
Thank you.
Now, Celso, this is the place that you grew up. This is Loíza.
Yes, man. You know, growing up here in Loíza is a huge source of inspiration for me. You know, usually I used to go to where the river meets the ocean, and I found so many plastics, old toys, and a lot of street food. It's been always about recollecting stuff that I found and creating new things. My mom identified that as art. My art developed, and it's still the place where I gather the material that I do now.
It's like, so your art is Loíza. It's like you can't separate the two.
Yeah, this is my raw material, in big part what I am today, because I got exposed to many different opportunities to grow and develop my art. And my art have become about representation. I started the mosaic because I was looking for something more permanent and more sophisticated. I like to see people as myself and my relatives in the big picture and showing to people that there's more than what they think they know.
And you more recently starting a new practice now. You're starting this project, Casa Afro.
It's always been my dream to have a project here in Loíza. We teach kids computer, we teach to cook the traditional food. Samuel is doing silk screen, I'm doing mosaics. We're bringing other Afro culture to Loíza and meet them with the Loíza artists so they can also learn from each other, you know, and spread the vibes. In my belief, African Americans are from Argentina to Canada. You know, America is the whole continent. We came all in the same ships, our ancestors, so we are all from the same tribe. There's variance in every place, but you know, the drum is universal.
Thank you so much for everything you do and for continuing to push forward and teach the next generation in all your work.
Oh, definitely, man. It's been an honor to meet you. Mira, vaya, con quien nos encontramos.
Bienvenido a
que
nuestro
conozcas a
pueblo
Justin.
Loíza. Encantado de conocerlo. Bienvenido a nuestro pueblo Loíza, capital de las tradiciones en Puerto Rico. Semblanzas de mi pueblo. Era yo muy pequeño, un niño, cuando por primera vez pude ver el santo. Santiago Apóstol, patrón de la fiesta de mi pueblo. Era la inquietud de un loizeño infante cuando en la semilejana curva apareció distante. Y mientras se acercaba, mi corazón latía. Era como si aquellas vestiduras a colores, desconocidas por mi inocencia, se volcaran en mi espíritu, preso de temores. Pero el sostén en los brazos de mi madre me impedían escapar y ella entre dientes me decía: Germencito, tú que a las mojigangas decías no temer, anímate si es que el santo quieres ver. De súbito se me disipó el miedo y mi valor subió a la cumbre. De ante los gritos de comparsa, cohetes y el alegre bullicio de la muchedumbre. Semblanzas de mi pueblo, conservémonos con amor, con respeto hacia el mayor, símbolo de nuestra tradición. Loíza, humilde pero rico, rico por sus paisajes, costumbres y tradiciones incomparables que son el orgullo de Puerto Rico.
Man, it was an honor to meet you. Thank you. And that's the story of El Main, el poeta de Loíza, el poeta de Puerto Rico. Within his narrative, within his story, we get the traditions, not just of his own life and his own experience, but the life of a community that resides in this country and reverberates throughout Africa. throughout America and throughout the Caribbean. The words that he speaks continue to maintain the memory of these people. We saw it in the art, we saw it in the music, and we feel it in the food that we eat and bring within ourselves. We've been able to experience the Afro-Puerto Rican culture through one of this island's greatest artists, Celso Gonzalez. Through his artwork, he's been able to captivate the history, the culture, and most importantly, the spirit of the people. We learned that if bomba is the heartbeat of the community, perhaps Helmain is the soul of the community. We know that this is not a history that you will find in the textbooks. It's a history that lives. It lives in the soul of the people, it lives in their movements, it lives in the dance, it lives in the food. And more importantly, it's a living community and a living culture that we must continue to maintain. It's a culture that we don't often see. We don't see these cultures when we think about our communities and when we think about what it means to be African in America. We hope that you will begin to love and appreciate African culture as much as we do. Thank you for coming with us.